Personal finance. Good morning. We are looking at a bank statement. We reviewed it yesterday. So I just want to quickly look at it one more time. You have your header information. All right. You have your starting balance, which was zero. Your ending balance of 1379 and 91 cents. The dates were March 1st through March 31st, so the full calendar month of March. And if your ending balance is here on March 31st, the starting balance for next month, April, is that same number, right? It starts wherever you left off from the previous month, right? We talked about how it's divided in two different parts down here at the bottom. We have non-check transactions. So we have some deposits, deposit of $200, a deposit of $1,400, and then a withdrawal because you're transferring over to savings. All right. And then down below, we have our one check transaction. Check number 101 for $73. Whoops, I guess that shouldn't be October 14th. It should be March, I don't know, whatever it was, maybe the 3rd. Okay, so that's your bank statement. Now, I actually created that bank statement based upon, now remember, bank statement is what your bank sees as having happened to your bank account for the entire month, in this case, March. All right, they take a snapshot, they capture all that information, and at like 2 minutes after midnight, March 31st, they kick out this report and they send it off to you. So they have captured everything that happened in March. And you have been capturing everything that happened in March as well, only you did it in your checking account register and your savings account register. Okay. So, real quick, this is for a checking account. So, we're only going to focus on the checking account at first. All right. In that case, you can see that we have an initial cash deposit on March the 2nd for $200. Matches up pretty well. Okay. Verizon Wireless check matches up pretty well. So I guess this actually has to be after March 5th, right? So maybe March 8th. Okay. And that actually is a key comment, is that you wrote this check out on March the 5th, but it did not show up on your bank until March 8th. Why? We talked a little bit about that yesterday, right? You make out the check, perhaps you make it out in the evening, March the 5th, you put a stamp on it, you put it in the mailbox the next day on the 6th. It takes at least a day to get over to Verizon on the 7th or maybe even the 8th. And by the time they take that check and process it, it's a day most likely later. So this might even be March the 9th until it actually gets taken out of your bank account. So what does that mean? Well, Verizon takes it to their bank, and their bank checks with your bank to make sure you have enough money. And if you do, they withdraw the money and they bring it over into Verizon Wireless's bank. All right. So that's probably going to take at least like 3 days. Over a weekend, it'll take an extra day, right? So that is how checks happen. All right. Now, notice that when you put money into the bank on March the 2nd, it immediately showed up on March the 2nd, right? The second deposit from your paycheck immediately showed up. Why? Well, most likely that's the case where you have gone to the bank, written out the deposit slip right while you were there, handed the cash over, and then it all happened on the exact same day. Same thing with your deposit from your paycheck. That most likely is being directly deposited. So it actually is coming in on exactly the same date that you have it marked as. All right. Your transfer to savings again, you're doing that kind of, I don't know if real time is that the best way to put it. It happens then. All right. Um, so now it doesn't necessarily mean your deposit, right? This initial cash deposit, maybe you're at home, you make out the deposit slip the night before, and then you take it to the bank. Oh, or you forget to take it to the bank. It sits in your car for a day. So by the time it gets deposited over here, it might be March the 4th, right? So what I need you to understand is these dates are when the bank saw that the thing actually happened. That's the important date, right? The fact that you wrote a date in here, the bank isn't going to check and say, wait a second, you're wrong. You don't have to ever go back and change this. These are just your notes of knowing, oh, this is kind of when I was doing things on my side. And then this is when the bank actually sees that it happens. And that's what I need you to understand. That's the whole idea of what we're talking about here is reconciliation, right? Reconciliation we talked about briefly yesterday. right? It's making things right. And that's what the backside of your bank statement is when they send it to you in the mail. It's making sure that you and the bank agree with not only what has happened throughout the month, but also that you know where you stand at that point in time. And when I say at that point in time, it probably is going to be like April 6th, 7th, or 8th until you go back and look at this March bank statement. Why? Well, again, if they're starting to create it on April the 1st, right? By the time they run all of them for all of their customers, it might be like April 3rd until they actually print it out, stick it in the mail. It takes a day or so to get to you. It sits on your kitchen counter for a day or two. By the time you actually go to make this reconciliation to see if everything is right, it's probably April 7th or 8th. Okay. And so that's why we run a reconciliation. We want to make sure that we agree with what has happened with the bank, but more importantly, we want to know how much money we definitely have in the bank, right? Because what could have happened April 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7? Well, we could have written more checks. We could have written check number 102, right? And if we write out check number 102 on April the 2nd, right? We may withdraw $350, right? In which case, what do we now have? And I hope everybody's doing this right. Right, your balance, you should be grabbing the previous balance. You should be adding to it, right? Any deposits that are in here, subtracting out any withdrawals that are in here, and subtracting out any fees that are written in here. So according to me, on April the 2nd, I have $1,029, right? However, what does the bank say I have? $1,379.91. Well, who's right? Well, the bank was right on March 31st, but now that we've moved into April, right? This check that I wrote, well, it's $350. I better account for the fact that it's going to be out of my bank account, because if I don't, I may think I still have $1,300. And if I go buy that laptop for $1,200, I'm going to be under the dollar amount I'm able to have, which is going to cost me money. Okay. So in this case, when is this going to show up on a bank statement? Yeah, not until after the whole month of April. And the bank will and it'll show up down here in the month of April with the check that got cleared. A cleared check means one that has come into the bank and has been paid. That's what it means by cleared. When you try to attempt to cash a check and you don't have money, it's a bounced check. And a bounced check will cost you probably an extra $35. I'm sure you've walked into a store somewhere and it says all return check fees will be charged a $35 fee. Yeah, that's what that means. Because if you write out a check for someone and they attempt to cash it and you don't have the money, they get penalized. So they're like, you know what? I'm not going to pay that penalty. You pay the penalty. You're the one that's screwed up by not having enough money in your bank account when you made out the check. Okay, so that being all said, what we need to do is kind of reconcile what has happened. All right, so let's say this happened on April the 2nd, but let's also say, I'm going to just throw in another, I'm going to insert a row in here. Let's say on March the 28th, right, that I wrote out a check to my friend for birthday, right? Friend for her birthday, right? And I wrote out a $50, $100 check. Okay. I can copy and paste this because I know that's right. So it went from 13. Oh, yeah, 1379. That's incorrect. Why does that say 1479? That shouldn't be right. The deposits. This one plus E9 minus F9 minus G9. Why is it adding money? Do I have what's going on here? Something's not working. Oh, I know why, because I did it the wrong way. I copied from up there, so it's got extra stuff in it. That's not good. Okay, let me get rid of all that. Delete that, delete that. This is how this should look from the beginning. Let's do this right from the beginning. If you haven't done this yet, you should. All right. Our balance, we start here. we add any deposits. We subtract, wait, E5, no. All right, we'll get this. Equal sign. We're going to start here at H4. We're going to add to it anything in the deposit column. We're going to subtract out anything in the withdrawal column. We're going to subtract out anything in the fee column. And now we're going to copy and paste that down as far as we want. All right. There we go. We're getting there. There we go. So now we wrote this check number 102 to our friend for a birthday. And on, let's say on April 2nd, we actually had our new paycheck came in, right? So on April the 2nd, we had our paycheck, and that's for 1387.23, right? Not good, right? Put in the wrong place. 1387.23. All right, so you can see how this can easily mess up. So you need to be careful about where you're putting your information in. Okay, so here we have $2,667.14. That's what I think is in my account. What does my bank say I have? $1,379.91. Well, who's right? Well, the bank was right back on March 31st, but now I've been keeping track of what's been happening ever since. Wait, but Mr. Ott, this is actually March 28th. Why didn't it show up down here, right? Well, that's what I mentioned with you maybe you write a check the night before, you send it to your friend, or maybe it's their birthday on the 29th or even the 30th, but you write out the check, right? By the time that friend gets it and then goes down to the bank and then it gets processed, it might be April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or who knows, a week later, right? And so in that case, we have a little bit late for, I'm sorry, not late, it's just beyond the time when this bank statement was done. All right. So that's what reconciliation is all about. Reconciliation is making sure that, do I actually have the right amount in here? So what does it mean to reconcile? It means walking through each one of these and checking them off, basically, right? And that's what this big X is all about. All right. So in your checking account register, you have an X. That is your spot to know everything has been taken care of or has cleared the bank. All right. So let's look at the bank statement. I like to start with the bank statement. All right. Let's look at the deposits. On March the 2nd, I had a deposit for $200. Do I see that here? Yeah, I'm reading it. Do I see that over here? Well, here's a deposit for $200, and yep, it is March the 2nd. Now, what if this says March the 1st? Do I not check it off? No, it's definitely the same one. Remember, this date might be off by one or two, but it's the dollar amount and the description that matter. So I'm going to put an X in here. And now a bank statement is usually printed out, in which case you have it on paper and you mark it off with a pen. In this case, we're going to mark it off by doing it that way. All right. And we continue down through. Our next one is a deposit of 1453.09. Oh, there it is, 1453.09. We check it off here. We check it off over here, right? When you check it off in one place, you check it off in both. Now we have a transfer on March the 9th for $200. Yep, transfer to saving, $200. Great. Mark it in one place, mark it in the other. Exit off. Now I come down, I have a $73.18. All right. See that here? That's check number 101. It's check number 101. I can check it off here and check it off here. All right. So that puts me at the end of all of the things that have happened in my bank account. Now, has everything happened over here? Did I check off everything? Well, we're not dealing with savings right now. We're just focusing on our checking account. Well, prior to me putting this information in here, excuse me, yeah, that matched up perfectly, 1379.91, right? And so that's great. In which case we feel good, we're done. But in this case, it's no longer absolutely the same exact thing. Why? Well, because it's April 7th or 8th until we actually were able to do this. So that's where you begin to move into your reconciliation worksheet. All right. So tomorrow we're going to look a little bit closer at that. It's kind of an introductory to you today. What I would like you to tell me today in your to know that you listened to this whole thing. What is a cleared check? That is your question. What is a cleared check versus a bounced check? All right, which one are you going to get a fee for? So tell me that that's the question. Tell me the answer to that question. Which will you get a fee for? A bounce check or a cleared check? All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.